week, when we went through Volume 1, a lot of people were really interested to see more. So I thought, well, it's the run up to the next expansion, Dawn Trail. So why not do the next and then do the third next week? So look forward to next week as well. But for the time being, this is the book that released in 2018. Yeah. And this was released in Stormblood, the second expansion. And this is my least favourite expansion the game has had, actually. But still a lot of fond memories. So, this book kind of elaborates on a lot from the first one, but also gives a little bit of insight into the new zones and new challenges, etc. So here we have the Far East and Ingashi, Thafna, which ironically is detailed in this book, but you won't see Thafna properly for 2 more expansions. Not until Endwalker. Some depiction of Eastern culture, the kind of creatures of the Far East, and some magic elements. Faiths of the Far East, including Susanoo, which is a creature, a character, a primal, I'm losing my words, that was created for Stormblood, just like Ravana in Heaven's Ward. Some retreading of Eorzean faiths. Just love the way they set out some of these pages. Some gorgeous stained glass, which I believe these images go back to 1.0, but I'm not 100%. They're gorgeous. Detailing flight. This book is just so detailed. Language, even down to showing some signs. Dragon speak. And then some of the Beast Tribe dialects as well. And Far Eastern script to boot. Don't mind my watch. I just realised it's on. Then we get a little bit of a detailing of the story from, I want to say, that would be 3.4, patch 3.4. Yeah, I think so. I believe so. Yeah, and then Stormblood, which, again, not my favourite expansion, because it felt very directionless to me, or maybe not directionless, but not as full. I don't know, but that's partly due to the fact that they split the expansion over two continents, and it didn't feel quite complete for either. It felt like a rush to resolve the Alamican story as well as the Dorman story. I get why they did it in a way, but yeah, I think Doma and Alamico could have been their own expansions. But yeah, so these are the patches. I believe at this point you're at 3.4. No, 4.4. Sorry. Omega, which was the Raid series for Stormblood. There was a lot of cool fights in this because they kind of took the stance of how do we, what if fights like X-Death and Kafka, and they did it through this delta scape, this kind of like other reality, which really worked actually. Alamico and Rogger's Reach, which was the main hub for the expansion. The fringes. So, interestingly, this happened a bit with Heaven's Ward, but from this point on, the zones seem really to only have specific names, not like Western Kiribania, or, for example, in Heaven's Ward, you still had Kurth's Western Islands, because the base game had Kurth's Central Islands, so like, it feels like they kind of did away with that and kind of went for more specific names going forward. The peaks, the locks, which they all kind of have a togetherness, but it is quite bright outside today, so the pages aren't showing up quite as well as usual, but it's okay. Ngashi, which is the other location of the kind of city of the expansion, that being Kugan. I can speak, I promise. North Kugane. I can't speak, apparently. South Kugane. The Ruby Sea, which, so, big thing in Stormblood was the introduction of swimming, like going underwater, diving, like that wasn't a thing in the first two parts of Around Reborn. So this was big, and they made a big deal of making the whole zone essentially underwater. But I remember, and it's a good point in a way, that I had a friend who was playing who had thalassophobia. And to be honest, I kinda can get it, because in other games I get that too. Not so much in MMOs. I really can't speak because the danger doesn't feel real. But in, like, I'm playing Horizon Forbidden West on Peralta's Place at the moment, my other YouTube channel, and there's enemies underwater, but you can't fight underwater, at least so far as I've gathered. So it's like a stealth game, but it's like anxious. I hate it. So I think that's why they did it here, but they didn't do it too much more afterwards because they didn't want people to feel like they were going like oppressively into water, especially because one of the dungeons, Shisui of the Violet Tides, I think it's called. I'm forgetting now. You know when you can't see it, so you forget. That's now. It's like in this deep ravine, like this deep trench. It's like I didn't even like it. So Doma. The Doman Enclave, which was the zone that you built up by handing in unused items. I always love like seeing a world build up. Reminds me of FFXIV Next, which never actually happened. But if you go and look back at like what they were discussing and suggesting for FFXIV Next, I would have loved that game. It's a shame it never saw the light of day. It's also a shame that the extra game they made on the side of that landmark also ended. But you know, Yangsha, the Azeem Step. I have a gripe with how the Azeem Step was done, namely the Azeem part, because Azeem is the Dawnfather, which is essentially kind of who was meant to have created the rain. Now, if you remember back, that is one of the Aura tribes. The thing is, the Aura tribe or tribes, should I say, that live in the Azeem Steppe are Zilla, which arguably should worship Nama, the Dusk Mother. It's a whole thing. It really annoyed me. They made really interesting lore and then kind of sidestepped it. It was weird. I didn't like it. But there you go. So, and then just, I love these pages, you know, a little discussion on like other reading, even though it's like obviously something that we don't have, you know. The Sevens, this runs through a lot of, oh, by the way, Stormblood is the only expansion where we didn't get a new race, because Heaven's Ward we got Aura, Shadowbringers we got Viera and Hrothgar, Endwalker we got male Viera, and in Dawntrail we're getting female Hrothgar. So Stormblood was the odd one out there, which I find interesting because the Aura better for this expansion thematically, but I get why they did it earlier, you know? Anyway, lots of people this time round, lots of characters, as you can see. I like this as well. They're kind of going back and giving some kind of what's the word? Detail on all these characters we've met along the way. And then, so this is something they really added to this time round, is detailing all of the dungeons. So as you can see, from right from the start, and as well, so early FF14 had you revisit like Hog Manor, for example, or Brayflox's Long Stop in a hard mode version of the dungeon, but it will be a totally different dungeon, just located in the same place. I personally love that. They don't do it anymore, and I kind of wish they brought it back, mainly because they stopped it, or rather changed it up as they got to what would have been a favourite for me, which was Snow Glock. Snow Glock. Loved this dungeon primarily because it was the real beginning gateway into Heaven's Ward, and atop that, Shiva, which, you know, I love Shiva. So, they never did a hard mod of this, and soon after stopped doing hard mods. Bring back the hard mods, Square Enix. I like them. Bring them back. Anyway, what we're going to do is fast forward and see if I got the name of that dungeon correct. Where are we at? Yeah! Yeah! Shisui of the Violet Tides. I did it. Just that good. Just that good. But yeah, so all the dungeons right up until I do think 4.4, and then the deep dungeons, the Realm Reborn version, which was released in Heaven's Ward, was based in the base game Heaven on High, which was the actual Stormblood one. Then we didn't get one in Shadowbringers, or no, we did in Endwalker. We got Eureka, but not this Eureka. There's two Eurekas. It gets confusing. But yeah. Then the classes of Stormblood, Red Mage, and Samurai. But as well as that, this book really goes into depth on the weapons of the classes and gives us some really cool detailing on some of the weapons and their creation slash backstory, which I love. Just so much detail. I've skipped a few pages here and there just because, you know, they're essentially the same thing. Gear, armor. The game is sort of arbitrarily split between disciples of war and magic. I suppose it makes sense, but yeah. And then a show off of the gear given to each class in the expansion. Obviously, this gear is out of date. Well, it's pretty out of date straight away because the expansion always gives better gear straight after. But I always love the beginning of the end game of an expansion because everyone's wearing their AF artifact gear. And here we have some of the tribes in the expansion, like the Namasu, Lupin, Tengu, Banga, and Zeke, the Matanga, which get a bigger role in and Walker. Wow. And Walker. I can speak. I really can. It's weird. It only happens when I'm listening to myself. If I wasn't, I'd be fine. And a lot of new creatures. As you can see, some from Heaven's Ward that weren't detailed yet, but the majority from Stormblood. And just some really cool explanation on creatures that are like hunt marks. For example, 1 second, actually, did I miss it? Yeah, or no? No, okay. I actually fought this guy in game last time. Brontes, one of a pair of Cyclops captured several years ago on Philbrand by the Adventurers Guild and subsequently separated. Brontes was sold to an old circus. And it goes on. Now, I'm interested, actually, to know where the other one is, because there's a fate in Goeth's Central that is a Cyclops too. And I've never looked into it, but I wonder if that's the other Cyclops. Cool. Talking about mounts. Beast tribe companions. Legendary creatures. Auspices. Wow, that's a word. The Forlorns suggested this last time, but it's funny to see when the books have gone into production because Byakuya and Genbu were early on in Stormblood, but Suzaku and Seiryu, you can't see that very well, Seiryu, they got fights later on, so it's always funny to see that. And then this was the 24-man raid, and with that, the book ends. I might have showed a code there. I'm probably going to have to use that before someone sees the video. There you go. So, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed going through Encyclopedia Eorzea 2. I really did. And we'll come back next week to go through number 3. Until then, guys, thank you very much. I hope you have a great relax or sleep, and I'll speak to you very soon. Bye, guys.